So, what'd you think of the Catalina?
It was awesome. I didn't really understand what I was getting into. I knew it was going to be a canoe trip, but I didn't realize it was a brotherhood,
Right.
or whatever you call it. But it was great. I had a great time. It was a great reset. It was a great technology fast and group therapy session. Really,
Yeah. Yeah, it's funny.
it was great.
It's hard to
Great. I'm looking forward to it.
It's hard to describe to new people like what it is. So like to anybody listening, so we call it the Catalina wine mixer from Step Brothers. But it's our annual canoe trip. So we all get together. It's like the whole band and then like my other friend circle, my two brothers and all those guys. And we get together every year and we go canoeing down this nasty river that goes through my county. It's not glorious at all. It's not like crystal clear waters or anything. It's, it's brown. It's not really luxurious, but the fact that there's 9 guys that are roughly the same age in the roughly the same stage of life where we all have we're married, we have kids about the same age, and then we all get away for 3 days. We turn our phones off and we just hang out and talk. And it really is. It's like you said, like the whole brotherhood part of it. It's as outrageous as it seems, everyone takes it very seriously. We have our little Catalina resolutions thing, which happened this year, where we can kind of talk about hey, here's where I'm at and here's where I want to be next year. So yeah, it went pretty smooth this year. Awesome. It was magical.
It was. The weather was perfect. We didn't have any mishaps. Campsite was nice. River was high enough that we didn't really have to get out and push too much at all, really. We just had to drag a cripple along with us.
Yeah. Good old Joe Biden himself.
That's right. That was great. But yeah, when I remember when I was texting Aaron before we headed out, I think a day before the trip. And I was like, "Man, you sure you're gonna you're gonna go even with a twisted ankle and not being able to participate?" He's like, "I have to. It's the Catalina." I didn't, and that was like my first big sign of, all right, this trip's kind of a big deal. So
yeah,
and now it's a big deal for me too. So I'm really looking forward to next year.
Oh, that's so cool. This was a rare year for me where I came out of it. I don't know if everybody else is the same, but I came out of it feeling more rejuvenated and refreshed than usual. I usually come out of it, in my head is I got these things I want to do, I want to accomplish, but physically I'm always just really worn down. I always joke that it looks like Leo DiCaprio at the end of The Revenant. Have you seen that movie?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
That's kind of how it feels most years in the Catalina when you get off the river.
Well, it is rough. It is dirty. We did just, drag a bunch of stuff around and canoe down a river and spend days out in the heat or in the bugs. So yeah, it is a little rough, but no, I felt out. And obviously we stay up late talking every night. So we went to bed at 2 a.m. every night.
Yep.
So I think I got 4 hours or less of sleep Thursday, Friday, Saturday.
Yep.
So yes, I slept like a rock on Sunday when I got home. And on Monday too. I still was catching up yesterday or the day before. So yeah,
I was the same. It took me 2 days.
But I do feel better. Yeah.
Yeah.
No, but I definitely mentally, I felt really good mentally coming out of it. So
I just saw in our little group that Ethan has poison ivy all over his legs. And he does. And I do too. That's why I said I always recommend everyone takes the next Monday off or something like that, because there's a good chance that you come home and you'll have poison ivy or something. So
interesting.
Recovery.
So that's strange. So I thought I saw some around our campsite. And I didn't, and if I touched it or it was near it, I tried to wash off in the stream, and I did do that.
Yeah.
I've got a spot on my, but I think it just looks like a bug bite,
and
it started itching actually today. Poison ivy would have shown up before then, probably, right?
It's hard to tell.
Interesting.
Today's Wednesday. I mean, yeah, it probably would have shown up before then. Yeah.
But anyway,
yeah.
So hopefully I steer clear of that. So you got poison ivy, Ethan got poison ivy, so that's no fun.
So I just saw, this is kind of related to this too. My brother Aaron posted in the group that he just did his 3rd day in a row of cold plunging.
I saw that.
Which is hilarious. He's that kind of guy that if I'm going to do it, I'm going to make a big deal about it and tell all you guys and get a bunch of attention, because it's like, hey, look, I did something cool. But my brother, he did
That's
it
right.
3 days in a row and didn't tell anybody until just now. I'm like, dude, you gotta broadcast that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, for sure. I haven't done any cold plunges, but I worked out Monday and Wednesday. So
nice.
even on the holiday, even on Memorial Day, I got a lift in. So I've been doing everything that I said that I was going to do.
Mm-hmm. Same here
on the trip. So yeah.
Yep. I worked out Monday and then today as well. And then today was my first time ever cold plunging first and then working out. And I wanted to see how that would go. And I didn't notice anything extremely different. However, I didn't take pre-workout this morning. I usually take pre-workout before I work out. But I thought, I'm sure that, 40-degree water will do the trick of waking me up. So I felt pretty good.
Do you take creatine?
I think there's creatine in it. Right now, I just use a mix that's just like a cheap mix from Walmart. But I was, my brother Aaron showed me, I was making it myself. So we ordered individually the different recipe or the different ingredients for pre-workout. And so I have like a bag of creatine upstairs and I used to mix it that way, but it's just easier, cheaper this way.
I have found, so I don't take pre-workout. I usually just try to eat before I work out. And I find that has enough. I have a decent amount of fuel when I lift if I just have some food in my belly.
Yeah.
So, but I have noticed, so I've come on and off creatine a couple times over the past couple of years since I've been lifting weights. And I notice a difference. My performance is better in the gym when I'm on creatine, for sure.
Interesting.
So, yeah, it supposedly helps with brain function too.
Okay. Yeah, interesting.
Can't really say I notice much of a difference either way, on or off it. But in the gym, I noticed a difference.
Yeah. And I just listened to Andrew Huberman today too, because I cold plunged, now I'm obsessing over it. And he was talking about it and he said that you actually can get more benefit out of the cold plunge if you pair it with caffeine. So like if you consume some caffeine before you do the cold plunge, it actually takes all those benefits and magnifies them quite a bit, like the mental and all that stuff. So I was like, maybe I will.
Sweet.
The way around.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't have a cold plunge or a good setup for it, so I'm probably just gonna stick to cold showers whenever I feel like it. I usually just take my shower and then at the very end I just crank the knob all the way to cold and just stand there and take it for a minute or two. So
there you go.
It'll wake you up.
Yeah, that'll do
Take
it.
your breath away.
So okay,
definitely.
So here's what I brought to talk about tonight. I had this idea, and it actually it sprung from when I was talking to AC this morning at 5:30 after the cold plunge. So this weekend me and AC are going over to Vince's house and we're going to help him out. He's got some construction projects. He's remodeling some stuff, putting some bedrooms in. And so we're going out there and it's going to be a blast. I'm really excited about it because it's us hanging out together is always fun. I love that we get to help Vince with something. It's just going to be great in so many ways. How it's related, what I'm getting to is the idea of favors, and more specifically, a favor debt is something that I've been thinking about because, and this isn't really related to Vince because there's not really any kind of favor debt or whatever, but it's kind of an example because I talked to AC about it and I think that sometimes he does favors for people without them asking him. And then he'll feel a little bit of like, hey, when's the reciprocation going to happen? And not necessarily like, hey, you owe me one or anything like that. But I know that's a measure. It's an indicator for him. And it's like when you and him first met, the fact that you came over and helped him work on his barn was a big deal because like right off the bat, you're investing, you're sacrificing. And I know that means a lot. So we talked about this idea a little bit. And so I guess I'm trying to figure out how do I stimulate this conversation? What I landed at is I think if you offer to do something for somebody, like your friends, if you offer, hey, I'll come do this thing for you, then there is no expectation. There is no favor debt, quote unquote, that could exist with that because you offered. Now, if a friend asks you for help, then that sort of incurs a favor debt. And it's not like a severe thing. Like, obviously friends, like good friends, should not be keeping tally marks and everything, but
Of course not. Nope.
it is something where, sorry, I know I'm long-winded here, but
No, go for it.
AC over the years for me has done a lot for me. Like, he's a great friend. He's very, very self-sacrificial. He's like fixed cars for me. He's done all these things where he just offers to do it. I don't ask him, but he just offers to do it. And on my end, it's weird because I feel like I owe a really big favor debt to him, even though I didn't ask for those things. So what do you think?
Gotcha. Well, going back to our last conversation, that could definitely be narcissistic behavior,
Mm-hmm.
the narcissist trying to get ahead with his friends so he feels like they owe him something and that he can manipulate them. I'm not saying that that's what Aaron's doing. I don't know. I'm not saying that at all. But I'm saying there are people, because I've seen it, that do that. As far as just the general concept of the friend favor debt. Yeah, I guess I certainly don't keep track with things like that, but I will offer to help somebody if I know they need it and I can help them. Like this, for example, when Vince, I can't remember if Vince actually asked if anybody would help.
Nope.
I remember it was a conversation. He's like, I'm going to have to do this. And then we all kind of got the ball rolling, and I would have helped either way if he would have asked or not. So yeah, good friends. And in a time of need, when it's something that you can help with, yeah, I just always say yes, as if I can, to all that stuff. And I don't expect anything in return, but I would say this, and this is just me being honest, and I think a lot of people are this way. If I ask for a favor or if I offer to do something for somebody and they need it and I do it, I will remember doing that for them.
Yeah.
And if there comes a day where I ask for a favor and I really need it and they aren't there for me, I remember it.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not saying I really hold it against them or that I'm, keeping score, but I remember it. So I guess that's just all I'll say is I remember it when I help people.
Yeah.
And I remember when they help or don't help me.
Yeah.
So
I like that. I like that a lot. So I can put a spin on that too. So, and you're definitely right with the whole Vince thing. I volunteered kind of all of us. I mean, I definitely volunteered me.
Okay. Now I remember. It's like, well, we could help you. I'm like, you know what? I was thinking about offering anyway, but yeah, Dustin's voluntold us, and you know what? I'm okay with it.
And
I'm okay with it.
Vince even responded and was like, yeah, I was thinking about asking, but I wasn't really sure. And like, but I'm being selfish about it. Like, this is one of those exceptions to the rule kind of thing, because he needs a recording studio. Like, he's doing this so that he can have a room to put his studio in so that we can continue to do things for the band. So I'm like, hey, like, makes total sense. It benefits us. Selfishly, it benefits us for the band, but also as your friend, right, like, I want to help you. So I offer that. And by offering that, there's nothing in me that feels like, man, Vince really owes me, or like, this is not, I won't remember this or whatever, in that way. Like, but so where I wanted to go with that though is, what's interesting is I think it comes down to time. So I look back, when I was talking to Aaron this morning, I was looking back on my life, and I primarily ask favors for my brothers, because they're both about 30 minutes away and they're handy. It's just like, if I need another strong man, they're there. But I keep track in my mind of, when was the last time I asked a favor from this person, because I don't want to start doing it so often that they feel like, man, can't Dustin do something for himself, or like, that kind of thing. And so I found, this might just be for me, but I found that it's about like every 2 to 3 years that I ask for a favor from my brothers, where it's like, hey, I'm going to build a barn. Can you come help me lift these trusses up that are really heavy? And then 2 or 3 years will go by before I'm like, hey, I'm putting flooring in this room. It's going to be a lot of work. Can you help me? And I found that pacing is pretty good. It's a long enough span where it's not like I'm taxing the friendship or whatever. But it works out. And I told AC that this morning, and it seemed like it hit him a little wrong. He's like, man, 2 or 3 years between doing a favor for a friend. But I was like, I'm thinking about, I have like 6 or 7 really close friends. And if I'm doing a favor like that for all of them, I mean, that's a lot of time.
That is a lot of time. Yeah, for sure. Yeah, it's I guess in the past I haven't kept track of the specific pacing or frequency like
Mhm.
you said. But there have definitely been times or seasons in my life where I've definitely asked for more favors, and it's been boom, boom, boom. Like when I was moving or something, or like had to get a really like a big project done in my house. I remember there was this one summer where Lacey was pregnant with our first child. We decided to move for some reason. It all worked out, but we did when she was like 7 months pregnant. Um, there was a bunch of stuff going on in my life at the time, and I had to get a bunch of stuff on the new house done before we moved in so that Lacey could have this baby and we could be moved in. So I called in lots of favors, and they were mainly from my family. My dad has, I've honestly taxed my dad the most
Mhm.
with favors. And most of my favors usually end up coming in with, can you help me with something on the house, or can you help me like move something or lift something heavy, or fix something?
Yep.
And that's usually my dad, because my dad knows how to do it, and I know that he's gonna help me do it right, and
Yep.
and he's the expert. So I've heavily taxed him favor wise, but he's done the same for me. I grew up holding the flashlight while I got yelled at while he was under the car. Stuff like that. Just
Yep.
the classic kid stuff. Yeah, exactly. And but I remember, like I said, I look back on those and laugh, but I remember it. So I remember all the times that I helped my dad do like ridiculous or time consuming projects. And even actually, since I've been moved out an adult, I've helped him with a couple just painful projects on the house, but he's helped me with a couple as well. So
Yeah.
it's pretty even. So like I remember one time, the most painful thing that I can remember that he helped me with was on that house. We went down to the crawl space where there was a bunch of crap, and it was actually a nice, deep, open, nice crawl space to actually work in, but it didn't have any barrier on the bottom, so it was just dirt, and
Yeah.
there was moisture, so it was kind of muddy, and there was just a bunch of crap down there, a bunch of heavy, nasty crap, like a bunch of old insulation somebody just left on there. So we had to pick up all this sopping wet insulation and bag it up and get it, haul it out of there. Hauled up a bunch of big metal pipes and pieces
Mhm.
of concrete. It was not fun. It was dirty, it was gross, and it was hard work. So he helped me with that one, and a couple other smaller things on that house. But we almost did the same thing on his first rental house when he bought it. We went down into this tiny crawl space that was about a foot deep, and we crawled around in there, and we had to put Visqueen on the entire house, and it was spiderweb city.
Yeah.
Like it was gross, and it was nasty, and it was not fun. And then I helped him also, I think within a year or two of that, pour a concrete slab in his basement, or a crawl space in his house, to support a beam to hold up the house, a part of the house that was starting to sink in a little bit.
Yeah.
So we had to haul concrete bads down into the crawl space, mix the concrete down there, and shovel it in, and dig the hole. It was not fun. It was not fun. So again, it's tit for a tat. Like I make sure that, especially if somebody doesn't ask me for a favor, but I make sure if they did me a favor, that I make sure that, yeah, okay, next time they come calling, I say yes.
Yes.
Unless it has to be like a really, really good reason for me to say no.
Yeah. It's funny. It's like another thing that I don't actively think about it, but adults, like responsible adults, that's one of the things that you manage is in your relationships with others. You keep track of, how much am I asking here? Because you don't want to be that guy that asks too much.
Right.
And how much am I giving?
right.
But then at the same time, balance. And that's I'm always thinking about that, because I feel like my life is very, it's just teeter-tottery. Everything's just perfect. And so it's like, if the band starts playing too many shows, it'll all come crashing down. I'll have my balance is gone. And so that's where
Happened a little bit in May or April, didn't it?
Yeah. And to be honest, I'm still recovering. Like, I mean,
I think I am too. I think I'm getting to the point now where I want to play another show. But yeah, that was a busy month, and it threw my balance off. And that just all the more confirmed to me that the pacing that we set originally is good, and we did not do that again.
Yeah, and I actually, it kind of illuminated to me that pacing of playing one show a month is a maximum for me. I would be very content to play less than that.
Me too. Me too. I'd rather quality over quantity. I'll always repeat. I'll always be of that opinion.
Mm-hmm.
And me too. I'd honestly be fine with once a quarter.
Right. Yeah.
Once or twice a quarter. I'd be fine with that.
Yeah.
Just that way. And if we do some things that we're talking about with bigger theatrics, bigger stage setup, longer sets, more planning, better aesthetics, invest in that a little bit.
Yeah.
Once we get to that point, it's going to be more work and more planning required to do a show. And I'm not just going to want to say yes to everyone that pops up. I want us to be able to dictate everything that we want. And I'd rather do less and be able to do that than just play more.
Yep.
Because we're not trying to get big. We're not trying to tour nationally or get signed or anything like that. We're just doing this for fun and to make cool music and show it to the world as much as possible. But it's we're mainly a studio or basement band.
Man, so okay, I have like 3 directions I want to go off of that, but I'm gonna try to remember them all. So first off,
Sure.
The first thing I think of is AC asks all the time. It's like, think about your favorite band, and he'll ask people this: "What's your favorite band?" And then he'll say, "When was the last time you saw them play?" Because usually most people are like, my favorite band is blah, blah, blah. And then they never see them play. They never go see them. And it used to be the same for me. My favorite band was Emery, and like I never ever saw them. But that's not true anymore. Now it's in the past 5 or 6 or 7 years, anytime Emery comes to town, I'm there. Like if they're in Columbus, if they're in Cincinnati, Toledo, I go. And so I've been asking myself the question lately of why? What is it that is making me pay money and travel long distances to see Emery play? And it's not that they're very theatrical on stage. It's not that they do anything really different live than on the recording. It's just the fact that I love the music so much. And then pair that with, they have a podcast like this one where I've spent hundreds of hours getting to know them. I feel like it's a very well-developed one-sided friendship where like I just know everything about them and they know nothing about me, which is fine. So it's like to be able to like be in a room and hear all of these songs that impact me in a nostalgia way. I love them. They rock hard, but they hit everything. And then also be performed by guys that I like how they think. I like how they go about life in the world. So that's what gets me there. So that leads me to think that in this band, if we want people to come, it seems like music, that seems obvious, but like we have to write a bunch of really good music that people can listen to and like really connect with, like on their heartstrings to where they want it. And then maybe pair that with like what we're doing here, a podcast or something else, videos, some way to connect them to us as people. And then we bring all that together in a show. I think that's might be the magic formula.
Yeah, I'm with you there. The primary thing is always going to be the actual music you put out. You know, it's got to be good. People have to connect with it, and it's got to get spread to some degree so that people can even hear it. Or else nobody's going to show up to a Monsters in the Mirror show if they haven't really heard our music, unless they're there to see another band that we're playing with, which we're saying we don't want to play that often, and we definitely want to, I guess, filter the types of bands that we play with, and stick to our relative genre. So we're not, people aren't there. It isn't going to be very likely that people find us on a whim. It's not going to be very likely. Sure, it will happen. Every show that we play, there will be somebody that never heard of us before, and they'll hear us for the first time, and they'll probably like it because we put on a good live show. But we need to increase our online presence and write more good songs and put out some content so people can get to know us. And I can say firsthand that that's what drew me to Monsters in the Mirror was the podcasts and all the other stuff, not just the songs. So, and I also felt like you did with Emery. I felt like I knew you guys decently well, and it was just this one-sided relationship that you guys had no clue who I was.
Right.
But I knew who you were, and I had this opportunity to actually join the band. Now, that's probably not going to happen to anybody else. Maybe a drummer
Maybe one.
someday. Maybe one. I'd say, okay, I hope that happens for one other person, and that's it. Then we're good. We're done.
Yep.
And it's gonna be like this forever. That's what I'm telling myself, even though let's be real. But anyways, yeah, we got to put out more content and first songs. So we're working on this song finally. I guess people can get a quick update on that now too. So our new song, Blood is Overrated, is coming together. Drums are done, bass is done, rhythm and lead guitars are done. Vince has a little bit of editing to do on my parts still, and he's already got everything else put together pretty well. So we just have the vocals to record and then the mixing, and then the song is ready to go. And it is coming together quite nicely. I'm very happy with it.
Yeah.
And I can't wait for people to hear it. It's our best song.
Yeah. And that reminds me, I need to say something to Aaron. Like, now is the time to be really brushing up on vocals, strengthening the vocal cords, and also any ideas. Now's the time. Like, all the stuff that you want to do, try to get in a demo. We don't want to be making stuff up in the studio.
That's right. Yeah, not with vocals. And that's the other thing is with guitars. So I practiced the crap out of my parts before Vince came over and we recorded it. So recording went really smoothly. And we actually even spontaneously added one or two things that I didn't practice, but they were simple enough that it worked. With vocals, you can't just sit and play all day and record every idea you have. Your voice is going to blow out. Like you got a window to work with your voice that day. And because we function the way that we do, we have a limited time to record and get together and work on band stuff. So it's going to be in everybody's best interest if vocalists are ultra prepared and ready to go when recording day comes. So that's it. AC, get your stuff together. You too, Dustin.
Luckily, vocals usually go pretty smoothly for us.
That's good.
There's like a yin and yang. I used to say yin and yang, but yin and yang, I think, is how you actually pronounce it.
I think you're right.
Between Aaron and I. Right. So Aaron is lots and lots of talent, beautiful vibrato in his voice. Like just so much vocal talent, but he struggles a little bit with control. So when we get in the studio, especially if it's not really well practiced beforehand, having the control to land on this note or to go up here instead of going down here, that kind of stuff, he tends to struggle with. I'm the kind of the other side. I have a really good vocal control. Vince compliments me on that a lot. I just don't have the full-bodied vibrato voice that Aaron has. So kind of pros and cons to it. My parts tend to go very smoothly. I just, all right, do 3 takes on this one section. All right, moving on. And I kind of hit them. So, but with us all being there, like, did you want to be there for vocals, by the way? I forgot.
I don't need to be.
Okay.
It would be cool. Send me an invite, but I don't need to be. I don't need to be. There is a thing with too many cooks in the kitchen. Yeah. So I'm definitely, I don't want to impede anybody's progress or just be another voice in the room that just really ends up impeding progress. I know that all too well with another part of my life that over the last year, I've seen that in real life, and it's not good. So yeah. But I appreciate the invite. I definitely would like to be there for mixing though, because that's where the magic happens. Yeah, and that's a huge part of how the song's actually going to come out.
Yeah, absolutely. That's kind of back when we veered off in our conversation here. The other point I wanted to make was I don't remember what you were talking about. I think it was related to playing too many shows. Like, we're still recovering from those shows and all those shows in a row. That's more reason to like, it kind of goes along with what we were talking about, writing more songs and recording more songs versus playing them live. Because the other part of that, which is connected to the favorite debt thing, is the biggest stressor / pressure that I feel in my life right now. That's hurting my balance, is how often I need a babysitter. And now, like AC says, and I know this is true, but like, if you pay for a babysitter, everything I'm about to say doesn't matter. If you pay for a babysitter, that's whatever, because you got money to back it up. But if you don't pay for a babysitter, like me, I'm a single income family. I'm going off of my parents one time and then my mother-in-law the other time. I've got 2 people, and we're working on maybe a third. I've got a close friend whose daughter is like awesome. So she might, but I've felt very strongly during those like 4 weekends where we played a show almost every weekend. I was like, oh man, like I'm asking a lot out of my parents. I'm asking a lot out of my mother-in-law, and I'm not paying them. I could try to pay them, but I don't think they would care. Like they wouldn't. Money doesn't mean as much to them. And so I've been thinking about like playing for my own balance in my life. If we played less shows, if we did like one show every 3 or 4 months, it would make it so that I only have to pull that card once every 3 or 4 months. And then I can use my time, now that I'm waking up at 5 a.m. doing these cold plunges and stuff, I could use that time to write bass parts, write vocal parts, do social media stuff, like all the stuff that we actually need to build up the following to be able to play shows. So I'm kind of realizing now as we're talking that that's a big step. If the band took a step in that direction, I think it would help us. It would at least help me really cruise forward.
Yeah, I'd be a fan of that too. And to me, when I first joined the band, it seemed like we were there was a conflict. There was conflicting forces pushing against each other. We need to record new songs and write new songs, and we want to play shows.
Yeah,
and we weren't quite sure what we wanted to do. We wanted to do both, but clearly we couldn't do both. And we kind of just said, all right, forget it. Shows like crazy for a while. But now we're kind of backing off the other way. And I'm a big fan of that.
Yeah.
I know Vince is too. So I would be fine with just playing a couple shows the rest of the year and just working on new music. And honestly, even into next year, I'd rather go big or go home. And I'd rather, when we do play, schedule some more shows, that we have some new songs to play at them.
Yeah.
So I'm with you. I'd rather do less shows.
It's funny how,
even though it is fun. It is fun. It's a blast.
Oh, yeah.
It's an adrenaline rush. It's like a drug.
Mhm.
It's a high for sure. It's crazy the feeling you get on stage, and just being there with friends and other bands that you get to meet and network and stuff. That's all great too. I really like that part of it.
Yeah.
We met some good friends just over the past couple of shows with Dead Cassette and Midwinter and Bare Knuckle Redemption. Even though we knew them for a while, but it's really cool the relationships you build.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I'm friends with them on Facebook now. Like I see what's going on in their lives. It's cool.
Me too.
It's when it comes to like, this is a weird thing I found in my life balance, because I've had to ask my parents to babysit so often. It's actually gotten to the point where like my wife and I want to, like, say we want to go have a date night or whatever, go see a movie together. I'm like, which parent?
Too much.
Yeah, which parent
You've
am I
used
going to?
the resources too much already.
Yep. So it's almost like the band taxed that already. I mean, I did. And so now it, in a way, is affecting my marriage. I mean, it hasn't caused any problems yet, but we know how important it is for that quality time with your wife. And so the fact that when I try to have that quality time, I'm like, I can't pull that card anymore because we just played 4 shows in a row for all those months or whatever. So,
yep, for sure. Yeah. And it's a double-sided coin, or it sucks, but it's awesome. So my wife, isn't going to come to every show.
Mm-hmm.
It's just not going to happen. She likes to come every once in a while. She came to the first one that I played at, and that was great. But she hasn't been one since, and she might come to this one on June 8th at Frankie's. But my wife just isn't going to come to every show.
Right.
I know Amanda's kind of like that too. Desi hasn't been. I don't think Desi's been at every one, but maybe so far. But again, I don't feel like any of our family members should feel pressure to come to every single one.
Yep.
But I know that Holly's our number one fan, so she wants to be there. Yeah. And she's our merch girl too, so she's an important part of the band is when we play shows. Mm-hmm. So it sucks that she's our number one fan. I would never suggest she stays home or anything like that, but it sucks that the number one fan and the merch girl happens to be your wife. That also causes you to need to get a babysitter. Yeah. It's just it's like, what do you do?
Yep. Yeah, that's funny.
Yeah, tough spot. There's definitely some balance that needs to be figured out there for sure.
I think we have the solution, so it'll be cool. Maybe this weekend we can talk to Vince and Aaron about it and see what they think.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Aaron Aaron told me I told him we would talk about this favorite debt thing tonight. And he's like, I got a title for the episode if you want it. And I was like, okay, what do you got? And he said, friendship is like Stretch Armstrong. And I was like, I thought about it. And he said, because you could stretch it, with favors. Like if you're asking, or whatever, pulling, you're stretching that friendship to see just how far you can before it snaps. And I was like,
Gotcha.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Interesting. I actually had are you good on that topic, or do you feel like we covered it? Sweet. Look at that. Right at a half hour too. Man, we're good. We're getting good at this. I brought a topic too. And this is in a completely different direction. So let's be honest. This is a band podcast.
Yeah.
Okay. So yes, we cover lots of topics about our personal lives and just maybe deeper or bigger questions. And that's awesome. I love that. I don't want to get away from that. But I have a music or band related question or topic that I would like to cover tonight. And that is, how do you stay inspired? What are your sources for inspiration when writing music? How do you create song ideas lyrically and musically? And I can go first because I know I just hit you with this because I spend a little bit of thought on it. And I can go first, or unless you want to go first, you can go right ahead.
I'll go for a little bit since you asked a question. That way it's back and forth or whatever. I know something that I struggle with, but I'm kind of okay with it, is I tend to listen to the same stuff that I've always listened to. So my music taste and the things I listen to doesn't change a whole lot. And so, when I'm listening to music, it's Emery, or it's Sent by Ravens, or if I'm in like a metal mood, then I'll hit like Norma Jean, Haste Today, and For Today, that kind of stuff. But it's most
Reliant K.
Reliant K is very, very rare. I did listen to them yesterday. I was cleaning the kitchen and I was just kind of in like a happy mood. So I listened to The Anatomy of Tongue in Cheek, but
good one.
It's very rare. And I think maybe it's because I don't find it as applicable to the music that I play. So I don't listen to it as much. That could be it, but
that's fair. That's fair.
I don't know. Sometimes I listen to like hip hop music too, like Lecrae, like Christian hip hop or whatever, Andy Mineo.
Yep.
But I guess my primary inspiration is really Emery. Like, and I hope that I can branch out of that and not just be locked into that. But their music is so complex that every time I listen to it, I hear something else that they did. And I'll hear lyrics that they do, or I'll hear counterpoint vocals, how they have this thing doing this, and then the other vocals going over top of it like that. Like, it's just gorgeous. And so that's the kind of stuff that inspires me to whatever. But even that is just, I hear elements that I like and I say, I want to do that. But when it comes to actually inspiration for songs, like being a bass player, I don't have a lot of inspiration. Sometimes I'll play and I'll have like a riff that I think is cool. But then, after I'm done playing, like 30 minutes later, I'll say that was stupid, and then I don't ever play it again. So I'm my own worst critic. But the chorus for Blood is Overrated, I just thought of on the way home from Iowa. Like, I was just on a road trip home and I'm just staring at the road and I don't know what it was. I don't know if I was thinking about how I feel let down sometimes when people say, yeah, I'll be there for sure, and then they don't show up. And that was like my big gripe for a long time. But just the melody kind of came to my head, and it was even just that phrase, say you'll be there, but please be there. And I think I just kind of worked with that a lot. So that was kind of just random. I mean, I couldn't even get my phone out and record it because my family's asleep in the back. So I just like hummed it in my head on repeat most of the way home.
It stayed in your head.
Yeah, to really lock it in.
Yeah. I remember one time. Oh, actually, before I get to my point, quick Emery question for you. So I only have one Emery album. I'm only familiar with one Emery album, and that's In Shallow Seas We Sail.
Yes.
Of all of Emery, if you could take their entire catalog, where would you put that album?
Number one.
Like, how good of an Emery?
That's their best.
That's their best album
for sure.
Okay, so at least that in my limited exposure to Emery, I'm at least I've got the best picture of them.
Masterpiece.
Okay, I think it's a good album too. I don't connect as much with the I like albums with more catchy hooks and a little bit more repetition than they do. So that's my one really gripe with them, is that that's not my favorite style.
Right.
But the music itself, obviously, their guitarists aren't wizards, but they're interesting. They're not conventional, which in my old age is all the more important, because I've listened to lots of metal, I've listened to lots of rock, and I've listened to lots of conventional stuff.
Yeah.
And they're definitely not conventional, and that's awesome.
Yep.
So great. Okay. I'm gonna if you were to pick 2 or 3 more albums, which ones would you tell me to go listen to?
My second favorite is The Question, which was their second album.
Okay.
And man, it's tough for the third one. There's like 4 of them that are kind of a tie.
Knowing me, like being the guitar oriented person, which ones would you tell me to listen to as like a guitar player, the person that you know that I am? Which ones do you think that I'm gonna like the best?
I think their newest one, Rub Some Dirt on It, you might like a lot, especially because we've never talked about this, but on that album they took a huge step away from overproducing things. They didn't want it to sound polished, and so they literally, like, they wrote the songs together and then said, all right, in 2 weeks we're going to meet and we're going to record it live, all in one take, like, go.
Wow.
And so it was like
Black Sabbath style.
Yeah. So everybody had to memorize their stuff, and they got in a room and they filmed it. And I think they put the lyrics up on a projector to at least help the vocalist out with that. But it was like, so by doing that, there was some minor editing afterwards with vocals just to make sure it sounded good. But like, it was very like raw and like,
that's pretty cool.
The first song on the album is called "You Stole God From Me," and it's profound because of my experience with the church and their experience with the church. But the idea of the song is like the church spent so much time making them afraid of hell that it made them have this wrong picture of God as this like mean old man that's going to punish you. And so in a way, that church or that culture poisoned them and took love away from them. And so, yeah, it was good.
Okay. I'll have to check that out. Anyways, sidebar over, but I'm glad I asked the question. I've actually been meaning to ask you that for a while. Mm-hmm. And because I only have this one album, and actually somebody else gave it to me. Like I got it for like a Christmas White Element at a work party years ago. And this other guy who was also into like emo music, knew I was into it, and he just got me that album. So I like listened to it one time, and I had the CD. It's one of the few albums that I actually have a CD of. And I just like ripped it to my computer years ago and didn't really touch it again until I met you. So
yeah, dude, I don't have any tattoos, but I'm on the Catalina. I decided that I'm gonna remember.
I think I'm
gonna get one.
What that was about,
and it's gonna be the song "In Shallow Seas We Sail." Ships don't sink if they have wind in their sails, but if the wind fails, is there hope for me? And I don't know what it's gonna look like, but I'm gonna meet my strength goals, and I'm gonna get that tattoo because I've sat on it long enough.
Sweet, that's awesome, man. Yeah, cool. So, anyways, your inspiration. So you've are you saying that things just sort of come to you then, and that's like your inspiration, the source, or where have your best ideas? You feel that your best ideas come from? Like, how did you come up with them? Were they just from staying in a place, just jamming, just playing things over, just messing around, and then eventually you pieced it together over time, or did it just sort of come to you?
I guess it depends, like what we're talking about, because like Blood Is Overrated, that vocal chorus thing came to me, but I don't have a whole lot of stuff that I've written. I mean, I would play around like on bass right now. If this were to happen, it would be, I just practiced, I played through the set, I'm feeling good, I got a little bit of time, let's just kind of mess around, and maybe I come up with a riff or something. I just play something that sounds kind of cool, or I might try to like The Wedding or Maylene in the Sons of Disaster. They have these like Southern 1-string riffs that they play a lot. I might say, yep, I want to do something like that. And so I'll mess around on the bass and try to create something that sounds like that. And then, but from there, it's always just a nugget of an idea. It's just like a riff or something
Sure.
small. And then
Sure.
I would bring it to you guys and say, hey, what are you feeling? What are you vibing with? And that's,
What should we do with this?
Yeah. And that's where I feel like I shine the most, is when I can get with other people and they can take whatever small nugget that I have and they can add their spice to it. And then I get real giddy. Like Vince does this with me a lot, and I know you will too. They'll just take my idea and then add something else to it that makes it just and I'm like, oh, yeah. And what if we do this? And it just so exciting, so much dopamine.
That's good to hear, because that's exactly how I work. So my source of inspiration is, I guess I went through a period of my life, and it actually wasn't that long ago, but it sort of ended 2-3 years ago. I used to just get like random awesome riffs that would just pop into my head. So then I'd go hash them out on the guitar, or record them, or at least hum them, or at least record them on my phone.
Yeah.
And have that riff sitting. So all of my ideas and all the songs that I have demos for, that I'm bringing to the band, that you guys you have access to, but that we're gonna start working through. Most of those I wrote and recorded demos for within the span of about 2 or 3 years. And that was from like 2018 to 2021. So all those ideas I spent some time on. They were just basic ideas at first. And I had a couple writing buddies, my friend Noah, that you'll meet probably in the next couple months. Mm-hmm. He's moving back home. And my other friend Mike, that I played guitar with a lot for about a year straight. We wrote some of those ideas together. But about half of the songs that you're going to hear, I just came up with on my own. And I don't know what happened. I just had an idea for a riff, and I sat down and I recorded it, and then I just tried. The ideas just kept coming, and I just played my way through, and eventually I had enough material for like a whole song. And then I had about enough for like a whole album, and it's, I don't see it as an album, but I have enough material for an album. And they're just, they're riffs, they're chords, they're song structures. And that sort of ended in like 2021. I like moved to this house. I was like really busy that year. So I like wrote and recorded all that stuff. And then I like changed focus for the rest of the year on a different part of my life. And I haven't really been able to go back to like writing or idea mode since. And like just the ideas just haven't really come to me over the past couple of years. I get, maybe that's just a writer's block or something like that.
Yeah.
But I've got plenty. I'm not worried about it yet, because I know I've got plenty. I've got a backlog of ideas that I could work with and bring to the table, but I haven't really written anything new as far as like a basic idea in like 3 years plus. So interesting. But I'm like you. I don't shine. We've talked about this a bit before in my intro episode. I don't shine with like coming up with a basic idea. I shine when somebody else brings a basic idea, and then I can put some seasoning on it, or add some more flair to it. That's where I really shine. So we're going to work really well together.
Yeah.
There. And it sounds like Vince is more of a bass idea guy. So we're going to work really well together too. Yeah.
That's what I'm so excited about with your backlog of everything. Like, first off, I think that once we start recording those, it's probably going to unlock something in you where all that stuff is going to come back, and you're going to start having ideas again.
It probably is. You're right. And you know what? And this is just, I know it is, because this is how I work. I hear a basic idea. And honestly, I listened through. So I showed him to AC on the way home from the Catalina on Sunday. We listened through like 7 of the songs, and he was really digging some of them. And he's like, yeah, this is going to work. Well, we can tweak a few things, but this is like it sounds different. It doesn't sound like Monsters in the Mirror does now, because it's came from me by myself and never being, exposed to Monsters in the Mirror. So it's going to sound completely differently, but we'll still make it MITM.
Yeah.
We'll tweak them so that it still sounds a bit like MITM. But to be honest, the new song Blood is Overrated, I wouldn't have really said that sounds like a Monsters in the Mirror song either. So hey, the band is what we make it. We can do whatever we want.
Yeah.
With it. So it will be MITM. It will.
I had asked a couple years ago. I asked Vince and Aaron, and we had like a serious talk about it, because I feel drawn to pop punk music still, and and then even aside from that, I feel drawn to Southern acoustic bluesy type stuff, like, like Chris Stapleton. But I had asked the guys, like, guys, if I come up with something that's just pure pop punk, can we release that through the band and just really, because like, who says that MITM has to be a metal band or has to be a blah, blah, blah? Like, who says that we have to fit into a box? And they were both like, yeah, totally fine. So that's always been something that's been there. But obviously, I don't really feel that way anymore. I feel like with you joining, I will be able to scratch the pop punk itch with the songs that we write. Like Blood is Overrated is kind of scratching that itch. And I think using some of your material and stuff will scratch it. So it doesn't have to be this weird, different thing.
Well, you're in for a treat, my friend, because I've got a handful of songs that are like slightly heavier pop punk.
Mm-hmm.
So you're probably going to get that itch scratched amongst using all my ideas.
Yeah.
It's going to be right up your alley.
That makes me happy. Yeah.
Yep, for sure. I'm like I said in my intro episode, I'm still pop punk kid, like a third of me. That's where like a third of my influence comes from. So I'm pretty much right there with you.
I wanted to ask, I've been thinking about this for a while. I keep forgetting. So I know at least some of your ideas, some of your songs have lyrics to them already. Do you have vocal parts written already?
Not really. I think I have a lot. I think I have 2 songs, like lyrically what I would consider done, at least enough lyrics to use and make the whole song.
Mm-hmm.
But I've got like half of it, half a song's worth of lyrics for 2 other ones. And I have rough ideas, but no, I don't have like hard vocal melodies or anything like that. I can show you ideas. Even for this. So this first one that it sounds like we're going to work on my song, it was called Tell the Stars.
Mm-hmm.
That was the working title. It was going to be used for a completely different project, and it's going to be nothing like that. But I have vocal ideas for that song. Nothing recorded, but I have ideas that I'm going to show to you guys, or riff off to you guys, so that you can go to town on them. So yeah, I do.
That's
I
exciting.
have some, but it's not fully developed or anything like that, and I'm still open to changing them.
That's awesome. I can't wait.
Yeah, it's gonna be fun. We need to do a band retreat weekend and just crank out a bunch of ideas and rework all my stuff and see what we want to use for the next round of songs. That'll be, I don't know. We'll see how fast we can go and get these last 3 Vince Jackson idea songs recorded.
Mm-hmm.
And after that, it's whole different new territory.
And that's what I'm thinking about. That's what I was thinking about when I volunteered all of us to go help Vince with the studio. Is like, again, he's my friend.
To be honest, me too.
I want to help my friend. That is for sure the primary. But secondarily, it's like I already saw we all saw what Vince did with Blood is Overrated. Like once the fuse was lit, he was off to the races. And
and if he has a space and his life's in balance and he doesn't have this other stuff weighing on him and he's got everything in order, he can go to freaking town.
Yep. That's what I was thinking. So it's kind of like long-term investments.
And he's going to love it. It isn't just like we're whipping him in the back. All of us, go, Vince, go. No, he's going to be like, oh, I want to do this. You can see it already. He's just going to go to town and he's going to love it.
Yep. That reminds me, I got to bring my bass this weekend. I need to see if he got another tuning peg for it. He said he was going to fix it for me.
Oh yeah. Heard about that. Yeah. You gotta, well, you're in perfectly functional shape right now, right? You just can't use your highest string.
Right. Yeah.
Do you even use the highest string? Be honest, Dustin. Do you even use those top 2 strings on your 5-string bass?
Not the top. I don't use the top one, but I use the one, below that. Yeah. But not a ton.
To be honest, To be honest, this is where I have a bass. I play a little bit of bass, but I've never really dove into being a really good bassist. And I don't know, how far have you gone? I guess that was that's it for that topic. So let's dive into another one. How have you adjusted from being a guitar player to a bass player? And do you consider yourself an actual bassist now, or a guitar player that plays bass? And what makes you a good bassist? I have imposter syndrome, still really bad. I still consider myself a guitar player that plays bass.
as far as like diving into bass, I have listened. I don't feel like I understand bass most of the time. And like I've listened to interviews with like Fieldy from Korn and some other bass players and like how they write and what is it that they're looking for? What do they get out of bass? And they talk about like filling the space and like, you know, feels like it needs something there. And like I listen to Korn and I hate the way their bass guitar sounds. Like I hate, yeah.
I it's unique. Like as soon as you hear them play, you know it's Korn. But yeah, I'm not a fan of it.
Like yeah, you're filling the space all right, and it's right in my face, and I can't hear. The guitars feel like they're buried. Like, so then that's not really a good example. I don't know. I pay attention to like. I've been trying to learn about bass tone as much as I can to try to get something that's not muddy, but definitely holds the low end in a punchy way so that it doesn't sound muddy in the sound system. And I thought that I had that found perfectly. And then we played that last show and I was like, ugh. But I think I'm making progress in that. But I still feel like, on Obituary, the bass part for the verse is really, really boring right now. And so I messed around with it and I created something that was a lot more complex and harder to play and it fit and felt good. But I struggle with like, am I filling the space? Or like there's already a lot of busy guitar stuff happening there. And then there's going to be vocals.
Yep.
So like
that's a busy part. That's a busy song. Period for guitar. At least the choruses are open, a little bit more open. But other than that, yeah, it's a very busy song.
So that's when I was kind of again. That's where the imposter syndrome really creeps in for me. Is like I don't know what I mean, if I just keep playing root notes, what the heck am I like? But I felt like in that part of the song, that's kind of what it needs. So it's really complicated. I'm pretty insecure about it. Like tracking Blood is Overrated was the first time tracking bass with Vince. And so he was really nice and everything, but like,
how'd you do? How do you feel it went?
Like everything was, I felt like I did good. I played the parts well, but my attack on the strings wasn't great. Like it wasn't consistent. And Vince said he'll coach me through that next time. But I also, I mean, I don't know how to explain this. I don't want to attack the strings too hard. But I guess you have to do that in a recording to be able for Vince to be able to do what he does on his end. When I play it live, I play the bass with texture, the way I would play an acoustic guitar, so that some parts are louder and punchier and some parts are softer and whatever. The same way that I would play piano or acoustic guitar. But I think on the recording, I needed more attack. I don't know, which is when you're insecure about something, you don't want to attack it.
Have you ever considered learning fingerstyle?
Yeah, I try it every once in a while. I just can't.
I think that would help you be more expressive. And I taught myself the rest stroke or whatever you call it, fingerstyle, when I started playing bass. And I'm certainly not fast, but I'm at least comfortable playing a bass now with just my fingers. And actually, I think I prefer now to play a bass. And some of our stuff, the riffy, the metal, the jumping between strings with that gallopy rhythm. Yeah, that's hard to do without a pick. But there's plenty of metal bassists out there that do it without a pick, and they use three fingers to like the whatever. So that's where you start to get more advanced, but you can do it. I know it's possible because there's a lot of people that do it.
Yeah, that might be like the final frontier for me is getting to that point, because I always think about, I watch other bass players too. Like the metal bass players, when you have stuff that's like you were saying, like those polyrhythms and whatnot, just seems really hard to do. And it seems like it'd be muddy too. Like that's another gripe that I have about the bass guitar in general, is there's just so much noise on it. And I don't want noise. I don't want mud. I want tight, clear, no poop in the soup kind of thing. But I've been watching all these guys that we play with, and they're all over the bass, and I guarantee you it's making all kinds of like mud and noise, but you can't really tell live. So I'm like, so yeah, it's a challenge. I'm wrestling with it.
Talk to Bare Knuckle Redemption's bassist.
Yeah, he was all over that thing, man. Like,
yeah, he rips, and he uses his fingers.
And and he was another one. I don't understand how there's not a bunch of noise. I mean, he was just all over the place. He was just like, I mean, he would just like smack it and stuff. And so I don't know. I wrestle with it. To be honest, I really do. I've always kind of like, I play the bass because we need a bass player, but I'm not passionate about it. I am passionate about singing and I am passionate about songwriting, but I've always with the bass just done enough to get by and not let you guys down. So my greatest fear is that you guys are going to want to start writing metal songs that are really, really complex. And you're gonna.
I don't think you're gonna have to worry about that.
Well,
I don't think we're not going to be a prog metal band. I know that none of us, all of us, aren't going to necessarily sign up for that. And I know what you mean. You're filling your role. You're trying to. Your bass is not your favorite, but you're doing it because we need it. And I don't think you're a bad bassist at all. But I see. The reason I asked this question is because I'm a guitar player who started to learn how to play bass, and I was trying to put myself in your shoes and think if I was in a band and I was a guitar player for the longest time, and then I had to switch to bass, how would I feel? And my personal approach, and it's not humbling, but it's you don't feel quite yourself. You're not in your comfort zone. You would question, is this really? This isn't what I do. So why am I doing this? And obviously you do, but I would also, on the other side of the coin, just lean into it and be like, you know what? I'm the bassist, so I'm going to do as best as I can, and I'm going to learn this freaking thing. So, and it would probably take me a long time because I spent a long time on guitar, but yeah, I actually like the fact that you switched from guitar to bass because you understand the guitar. And that probably would give you a more unique perspective on the bass. But interesting.
Yeah. The imposter syndrome is so real. It's so funny. I talk to the guys about it, so they all know, but it's like, I'm always like, I feel like I'm always looking over my shoulder, like, hopefully none of these guys find out. Like when we play shows and stuff, I'm like, I got this little tiny bass amp. I'm just going to keep my warm-ups real simple here.
Well, hey, you know that probably most of the guys in the bands that we play with or have played with in the past or in our genre, maybe couldn't play guitar, so they played bass instead. So that's not your case.
There you go.
That's funny. Yeah, it's actually what I found when I was learning guitar is I just learned songs. I looked up tablature. I looked up, tried to learn songs from bands and songs that I liked. And by doing that, it helped me see, oh, he plays that. That's interesting. I wouldn't have thought to play that. And then you play it and you're like, wow, that's really cool. That's awesome. And then you can take that and you can apply it to your instrument and your music. That's, I think, the number one thing that has helped me along is just learning other songs.
That's true. That's exactly what I did on guitar. And I've never, ever done that with bass. I've only learned our stuff.
I've actually got a couple songs I could send you. I have a collection of guitar tabs, a collection. I've been downloading them and getting them wherever I can for years. So I've got, and most of them, a lot of them have the bass parts, below. So you got the guitars and you've got your bass. So if you're interested in any of them, I could send those your way.
Yeah, I'll start dabbling and I'll let you know. When I was messing with my tone recently, I knew I wanted my bass tone to sound like the bass player from The Wedding, and so I was messing around with it, and then I accidentally learned the riff to one of their songs, and so then I did it. I played this. I just now remember this. I played their song and I played to it, and I was trying to use that to develop the tone because I was like, hey, if I play the exact riff that they're playing, I can try to match their tone. Mm-hmm. And yeah, that was fun. I think that would make me enjoy my instrument more. Instead of just doing what needs to be done, maybe I can do what feels good. So I just need to start thinking about what songs I want to play.
Yeah, for sure.
Jam some Emery, maybe.
There you go. Yeah, I'm not because I am a guitar player. My ear doesn't naturally listen for the bass unless it's like way out front or like super noticeable or isolated.
Yeah.
My ears don't really hear the bass very well, and they don't try to, because I'm a guitar player. They're listening to the guitars.
Yep.
So it's bass isn't something that I can, to be honest, I probably wouldn't even know like what the bass is doing on a lot of the songs. And to be honest, I don't even really I don't even know a lot of what the bass is doing on our songs. Oh, like when you played when when I went to record my parts for Blood is Overrated the other week, and you recorded right before I did. I thought you were doing one thing in practice, and then on the recording it was different. And I don't know if you changed it or I just wasn't hearing it. But I changed a part that I was practicing because it didn't fit when you laid that down. So I had to adjust. So that actually, I thought that was cool.
I thought about that when I was recording too, because I wondered if you and Vince both thought that I was playing the same thing as the guitars for the chorus and the intro, the because that's when we started the song, when we first wrote it, that's kind of what I was doing. But I always had this vision for this song as being this very open, it's the pop punk thing. This is me trying to get that pop punk. I want it to be very, very open. And so that's why bass wise, I just stay on that open note until I go up to the 12. And it's very, very simple, but I feel like it works with what you guys are doing.
You made the right call. I wouldn't. It's way better that way than if you just played the riff in unison with us.
Okay,
you made the right call. And honestly, I like that in general. Actually, unless it's super technical progressive metal where everything's supposed to be super tight and everybody's supposed to stay together, like on Becoming a Monster, the verses for Becoming a Monster. Yeah. That sounds cool like that because that's what it's supposed to be. It's supposed to be tight. It's supposed to be staccato. That's just what it's supposed to be. But if it's just a different part, I like the more open sound.
Okay, good. Me
for
too.
Sure.
Because I think Emery does a lot of that, and when I saw them live recently, the bass is quite easy. Just watching them play, and like even lead singers would pass the bass back and forth. Because there's some songs where Devin is the lead singer, and there's some songs where Toby takes it, and so they just pass it back.
So I'm not familiar with their lineup or their personnel arrangement and who plays what. So I know that there's definitely, you can just hear there's two vocalists. There's two like sort of co-lead vocalists. The guy with the more like you screams, the screams that you sound like. Who is that?
They all kind of do that because when they scream, they do the screamo scream. But you could tell the two vocalists apart because there's like a high end on Devin's voice. He always hits the high notes, and he's got this high end that like he can hit the notes without squeaking his voice or without pinching it off. Like it's just, he hits them perfectly. And then Toby is the opposite. Toby doesn't go as high, but his voice tends to be just a little bit lower. So they have the same register, but it's like Devin can just hit this perfectly and Toby can hit this perfectly, and they complement each other amazingly.
Gotcha. And both of them play bass and guitar normally? There's how many people? Are there 4 or 5 people in the band?
I think 5. They technically 6 because they have a screamer or whatever. So they have Josh Head, who's their screamer, and I think he records the screams, but he is mostly like a touring screamer. So like he's in the band, he helped him write everything. He's got long hair and he's really crazy, like very good stage presence, but you can tell on the recordings that all the screams are very like screamo screams. So I'm pretty sure on the recordings, it's like Devin and Toby and those guys recording the screams. But when they perform live and Josh does the screams, they're a step in Aaron's direction as far as screams go.
Full body, more like
a little,
because his screams are more like yelling. Honestly, half of his screams are just like open mouth yelling.
Yeah,
it's not your typical like metal scream.
Yeah, so it's like I think live, Josh just kind of does what he needs to do to make it so that the vocalists don't have to blow out their voices by singing and screaming.
Gotcha. Interesting. My favorite band, one of them, Trivium, the lead vocalist is the rhythm guitarist, and he's also a very good lead guitarist. So he is, his name's Matt Heafy. He is amazing. You should check them out. Their bassist is also a very, very good bassist, and he plays a 5-string bass just like you do. And they have 6-string tuning and 7-string tuning guitars. So they have 2 different tunings, 2 different setups, just like we do.
Mm-hmm.
And he uses one bass for the whole thing, just like you do.
Oh, nice.
And he uses his fingers the whole time. He does not have a pick ever. And I believe he used to have a pick back in the day, but then he switched.
Yeah.
And he's a very good bassist. His name's Paulo.
I think, that would be the number one thing I could do to combat my imposter syndrome is if I switched to using my fingers, because like playing with a pick is a dead giveaway.
This is different.
Yeah.
This is a different instrument. Yeah.
Well, and it's just to everybody else in the room, because I know all the bass purists, like it's in the forums and stuff. It's like, oh, I bet you play with a pick too, don't you?
For sure. Yeah. Yep, definitely. Yep, all the different approaches. It's so interesting how many different approaches there are to the same instrument or even within the same genre.
Yeah.
And it still works.
Yep.
For everybody. So really interesting, really cool. Maybe I'll branch out a little bit too, but I'm kind of feel like I'm stuck in my ways. Vince and I keep going back and forth about, do we want to write more 7-string songs, or he wants to maybe go to 8-string stuff because he has an 8-string. I don't. And I told him I'm not doing 8-string. That's too much of a departure from the traditional guitar that I am so desperately clinging to. I love my 6-string way more than my 7. I'll do 7. I've had a 7 for a while, and I do like it, but I just love the 6-string way more. So I'm going to be partial to that always.
And I think as we venture into these new songs we're recording, I think everyone's going to realize that we don't need the low end chugs so much, and I think we're all going to fall in love with this genre and be good with our 6 strings.
Yeah, I definitely would like to only have to bring one guitar to a show.
Oh yeah, that'd be cool.
But two of our really, Losing Myself and Good Old Fashioned Beatdown, both really good songs. They're in 7s, so if we ever play them live, I'm gonna have to bring that other guitar. And I can think of only one song of my ideas that we're gonna work with that's on a 7-string.
Gotcha.
So everything else is on 6. So buckle up, because 6 is here to stay, at least for the most part.
Maybe we can just record the songs but not play them live too.
Oh, there we go. That's part of that. I never understood that. I do. When you put out a whole album, you obviously can't play them all live. But it's kind of sad. You kind of like, I wrote the song, I recorded it, I like the song, but we don't play it live. It's kind of stupid. But
yeah,
I realize that it's just realistic. It's just the real world. You can't play them all live, but we're playing pretty much close to all of them live. You guys played Losing Myself live before I joined the band, so you guys have played everything live.
Yeah, everything we wrote was to try to fill up the set so that we could be able to play live. We've never this is the first time we've had a full set and we have to decide which one to cut.
It's a good problem to have.
Yeah, I think we're due for a couple soft songs that we never play live. I think we're due for like just get in the studio with Vince on the piano and Aaron on the vocals and just create and just do a couple real easy recordings, but to capture, I don't know. I think those would be cool to do. Just put it on our list.
Yeah, exactly. It's, man, you got to stop adding things to that list. It's ever growing, and we're getting more and more behind. So you need to stop those new ideas.
I'll just keep that one tucked away.
That's right. But I do love the idea. I like dynamics and I like variety. So obviously that's what Monsters in the Mirrors is variety. Mm-hmm. So and that's definitely not going anywhere.
Well, speaking of going anywhere, I need to go upstairs and have dinner.
You didn't eat yet, dude? Come on.
Nah, timing was really bad today.
Gotcha. Well, that was awesome. Until next time.
Yeah, absolutely.